Hi, my name's Elena. I attended Brigham Young University when I was 18 years old, recruited to play golf there. I was Catholic at the time. I get there, I'm really excited in a new place, as every college freshman is to start college. And I learned about something called the Honor Code. And I was excited to be at BYU around this new culture and this new religion, very hopeful about the future. That first semester, I went to a party and I was raped. And it changed my entire life. That next week, I considered, what am I supposed to do here? My entire world has just changed. But I had heard stories in the dorms of girls reporting their rapes to the honor code office and then getting expelled. And I knew I couldn't lose my place on the golf team. I didn't want to lose my place at college, so I decided not to say anything, to not report. The PTSD from staying silent was far more destructive than just the rape itself. Because I had blacked out, I had froze, I didn't believe myself even, just the constant repression of what I had experienced was so difficult. Over the next year, I had nightmares, I had anxiety attacks. It became very difficult over time. About a year later, the missionaries came to my door, and I needed healing, and I decided to join the church. And that was, I felt that if I am baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I will find some hope and healing for my sexual assault at BYU. And the community of the church really was something that helped me for a time. It was a second chance at life. I felt like I could kind of forget what had happened to me for a little while. I went on a mission to the Philippines. I loved it. I came back and I taught at the MTC while I was at BYU, graduated, came up here, worked at Goldman Sachs in Salt Lake. I loved Utah. I loved the church. About 8 years later, I realized that I still struggled with PTSD. I couldn't get in really any intimate relationships. I had a very hard time becoming comfortable. And I thought that I was going to leave this behind. And I realized I'd never confronted my rape. I decided I need to start pursuing healing. And I decided to go to therapy. I left Utah. It was about a year later that very brave women at Brigham Young University, Maddie Barney, Madeline McDonald, Brooke Folkman, they came forward to the media, the Salt Lake Tribune and the New York Times, and they disclosed that they had also been punished by the Honor Code Office after reporting their sexual assaults. And that was the first time in my life that I saw in print and evidence that it wasn't just me. And that was the moment that I decided that I had to tell the story, that I was going to do something about what I had experienced, that I'd experienced something unique, but it wasn't just me, it was a community of women, a community of survivors who had experienced the valuing of policy over human rights, valuing an institution over the experiences of survivors, mental health of survivors. And that's when I started doing my own research and making my own documentary called Truth Bound, which explores the high rates of sexual and domestic violence in Utah and in the church. And I can say with confidence that if you're a survivor listening today, you're not alone. And there is hope when you connect with other people who have been through this. There are so many victim advocates. There are people who are trauma-informed. It might not be within your institution, although some people do have positive experiences within the church too, and I don't want to discount that. There's actually a study that was done by Dr. Amber Whiteley. She's a professor at the University of Utah, and she studied And this professor, Dr. Amber Whiteley, she studied a number of sexual violence survivors' experiences in the LDS Church, and there were very, very different outcomes. If a survivor had a positive experience with her bishop, she was more likely to stay in the church. If the bishop told her to read the miracle of forgiveness, or that the survivor needed to repent, or didn't believe the survivor, that survivor was more likely to really struggle with their faith. And so I want to make very clear that there is hope for healing. I would highly recommend survivors to go to therapy and to connect with other survivors to find that peace and that hope, because you're not alone. Even though a part of you may feel like it ended the day that you were assaulted or the day that you told your bishop, a part of you is changed forever. There is a journey of healing that's possible. It may take some time, but you're worth it. And I don't want you to give up. It took me 10 to 12 years to really confront my rape. And it changed my entire identity, my entire life. And I wish that I had someone at BYU that I could have talked to about it. And I know maybe a lot of you also feel like that. If you go to someone in the church and you didn't get a good response, and probably didn't go to someone else. You just kept it inside of you and you buried it. And that's very common. Just know that you're not alone. And to know that you can find healing in these communities and with therapists and with positive activities in your life, with friendships, relationships. Relationships are possible. And I wish all of you the best. And I wish you all hope and healing.